Hey guys, it's Ashley and Brayden here with Utah Trikes for another episode of Trike Talk.
We've got a really cool one this time. We're here to talk about something new.
Something brand new, something that people are genuinely really excited about, and we're super excited about it.
Guys, we're here to talk about the ICE Chainless Trike. Brand new.
That's right. We're talking about chainless trikes and specifically the ICE PERS system.
New motor system.
New motor system. New motor system from Cixi. That's C-I-X-I, Cixi. It's chainless. There's no chain. We've got a trike behind us, and we've been riding this trike, and there's no chains.
Say, ICE sent us one of the first prototype models.
Yeah.
So we've been putting a lot of miles on it, riding around all the time. I've got a lot of opinions to share and things that really need to be explained on camera. So
Right.
let's just get into it. We've got a bunch of questions.
We've got a bunch of questions. I think first of all, let's talk about what is it? You know, a typical trike or bicycle, you have a crankset up front with pedals, and that is connected to the rear wheel via a chain. And there's usually some sort of gearing that goes in between, maybe on the front and the rear. And there's a chain that is what actually propels you, right?
What if I told you this has none of that? All of
Yeah.
it's gone. The pedals are there. There's still pedals, but
Right.
no chain, no sprockets, no derailleurs, no shifters.
Right.
All gone, which really kills a lot of maintenance on the trike.
Yep.
And when you tell people that, the first concern, how does it feel? Does it feel like a bike? Can I still pedal it? Does it rotate? Does it pedaling the trike? Do I still get my exercise? How does it translate without a chain?
What we're experiencing on this trike is actual real trike riding, pedaling.
Revolutionary.
Yeah, it really is.
We made a joke video about a year ago called like Trike to the Future or something.
Right.
This is it. We got it. This is, I think, the next evolution in motorized biking and triking.
You know, for the 20 years that I've been doing trikes, that I've been involved with trikes and building trikes, I have had people ask, can I have an electric trike and can I pedal a generator? Years ago, about 13 years ago, we had a prototype set up, and the issue back then that we found was the controllers really weren't good enough, the generators weren't efficient enough, the batteries weren't really good enough. Even though you could pedal and you could get the rear wheel to spin, it in no way felt natural. That's what Cixi has done with this PERS system. That's what ICE is implementing on their trikes. The feeling of it is just incredible.
Yeah, and you're jumping the gun a little bit. Generator. We have in the front of the trike where a mid-drive motor would go, we have a generator system that has its own torque sensor built into it.
I actually have one.
We've got it. We got show and tell.
Right here. So guys, this is a little bit of show and tell here. So this actually is the ICE boom. You can see it says ICE Trikes here. And this is the ICE Cixi PERS system here.
The generator.
Yeah. What this actually says here is PERS, and it's the pedaling, I got to take my glasses off to read this here, pedaling energy recovery system. So that's what we're talking about here.
Yeah.
You know, that terminology is the energy recovery system. And it starts off in front with this pedal generator. When you pedal this, it triggers the controller to make the trike move in a natural setup.
Probably see it. The wire runs through the bottom of that tubing and goes straight into the controller, to the battery, right back to a hub motor built into the rear wheel.
So at its heart, guys, the PERS system, a PERS equipped trike, is an electric trike.
It has to be.
It is. So there's a hub motor on the back, and then there's a battery, and I also have one of the PERS batteries here.
Now, there is something cool about this battery and unique it has the same output and input port,
Yes.
which is one of the big secrets to how they pull this whole thing off.
Yes.
We've mentioned it, generator in the front, that while you're pedaling or activating, and the next thing I think we need to talk about, regen braking.
Right.
You send a charge back to that battery.
That PERS system is more than just a pedal generator. It really is an energy recovery system. So, we've both found that when we're riding the PERS trike, I hardly ever use my brakes.
Yeah.
I never use the front brakes, the disc brakes.
There are still manual
Right.
disc or hub brakes, depending on what you order it with. But the motor has its own active regen coaster brake, pretty much.
Yeah, and the way that that's engaged is when you're moving forward, you kick back and it stops, and it feels just like a kickback brake does. If you've ever had one of those 3-speed bikes with the kickback brake, it almost locks. And the harder you push, the harder that regen feels. And that rear wheel will slow you down, and it recoups that energy.
Some of these steeper hills in Utah, I went on that longer ride.
Yeah.
And I went down this long, steep hill. I mean, I would dare say I got a percentage or two back from the top all the way to the bottom using that coaster regen brake.
Right.
Now, I'm not going downhill all the time, as much as I would love that. But what a nice feature just to keep you going, right? Because there is no chain.
Right.
The whole drivetrain is dependent on that battery having some sort of charge to propel the trike forward.
Right. So again, it is an electric trike, and the battery is what makes it move. So this is a class 1 system. It's pedal assist only. There is no throttle. When you are pedaling, the front generator also has a torque sensor, so it senses how hard you're pushing and how hard you're pedaling, how fast you're spinning, and it uses that information to then send a signal to the controller, and then the battery then propels the motor.
Right.
At a given speed or a given output power.
And I gotta say, if anybody out there already has a recumbent trike or bike with a Bosch or Shimano steps, it feels just as natural feeling as those high-end torque sensing motors. I mean, this really is a complete kit.
Right.
It feels just as good with a trike as a trike with a chain, just fully electric without a chain.
Right. This is one of the main questions that keeps coming up is how powerful is the system? There's no gears, so you don't shift, but there's virtual gears, right? So you can adjust your power settings to the beginning setting, which is the muscular.
Yeah, and it might even just be easier, right? And it kind of depends on the configuration, but the way this prototype behind us is set up, the left side has a plus and a minus button for your levels of power assist, right? Muscular, active, dynamite being the big explosive mode. And on the right side, you really have a virtual gear shifter, and that kind of is what completes the whole package.
Yeah, and they refer to that more as like cadence, right? So you're using that right button setup to adjust your cadence or how fast you want to spin, and in turn that's going to make it a little bit more resistance, harder to pedal. And the power buttons on the display, those function, or they feel like they function pretty much like most every other system out there.
Right,
Like
any
you
other
mentioned,
power
like
assist.
the Bosch or the Shimano, when you increase that power into turbo mode, that's what you get. You get that dynamite mode, and you're pretty much gonna pedal with minimal effort and still be able to go 20 miles an hour, right?
And that's kind of that's the hardest thing to explain, right? Because the dynamite mode is gonna make you pedal faster at 20 miles per hour. Yet you can still shift through the gears on the right side and still fine tune how easy you want that to feel. So if you still want resistance, even at 20 miles per hour, you crank the cadence up, which increases the resistance of the generator, and you do have to work harder to pedal. And the cool thing about that, the more effort you're putting in the pedals, the more power is translated into that battery.
It's that energy recovery, right? So,
Right.
so your pedaling effort is being turned into electricity, which is then charging that battery back up that you're using to propel the back wheel.
Now, I do gotta say, because one of the main questions I'm getting asked all the time, there's two of them. One, does this trike ever die? Yes, there is kind of, and we'll get into it. But perpetual motion still doesn't exist.
Right.
It can.
If you're going up a hill, and this is what I experienced, for example. So I took the trike on about a 20-mile ride, and I started out at 100% charge. And I was climbing a lot of hills, and by the time I got to the top, I was about 10 miles into the ride, I had consumed, it said I was at about 92. Okay. So I had consumed about 8% of my battery capacity. And on the way down, now a lot of it, it's just like when you're riding any trike. If you want to go as fast as you can, then you're not going to engage the brakes, and that's kind of the trick with the regen. It's I can either coast and go faster, or I can use the regen to slow down, but then
as
capture.
Like a drag brake almost.
Right. Using the regen mode pretty liberally. By the time I got back, I was back at 95, so I had gained.
You gained a little back.
I had gained a little back. Now, I was huffing and puffing, and I was pedaling. And when I was climbing hills, it felt like I was climbing hills. And when I was going down, I was still pedaling, and I was trying to go fast. But I was always using that regen. And at 20 miles, basically up and back, I think when I was done, I had engaged probably about 5% of the battery. Now, I don't know if that's going to be typical,
Right.
If you have a lot of big hills. Now, you did.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I want to get into because I had mentioned, can this battery die?
Right. So now, I'll just say, so my ride, I was riding and I was pretty much in muscular mode most of the time. And I was not trying to, I did not want to use the battery up.
Right, you didn't want to exhaust it.
Yeah, because I'm going, I want to make sure I get home, and I really wanted to see more, how does it feel when I'm riding? And, so I kept it in the lower mode, which felt like I was doing most of the work. You did something completely different. You went out and you tried to use the battery up.
Almost immediately. We got the trike, and within a week, I was like, "Well, let's go kill it. Let's see what happens," because that's what everyone wants to know.
Right.
So I took the trike at 100%, left from this building, and went on a 45-mile ride, and I did get it to its dead mode, which I think is the easiest way to put it. Now, to do that, I did put it on dynamite.
Yeah, you were in dynamite the whole time.
Which is their max setting. I did pretty much 20 miles per hour the whole time.
Right.
And on the cadence switcher, I had it on the easiest. I mean, there was little resistance from that generator.
Right.
I mean, this is the fastest way to kill this motor. Besides a couple hills that I use regen
The
on.
battery, rather.
Right, the battery.
Exhaust
to kill the battery.
Right. And you did it was a little over 40 miles.
Little over 40, 42, 45, somewhere in there. Now, the interesting part, I don't recall the exact percentages, but like at 15% battery left, the motor goes into like a survival mode almost. Hey, we're getting close to dying. Let's take away dynamite so you can make it a little bit further. So dynamite was gone. And it kicked me into that like 4th level. And then at 10%, I lost that. It kicked me even slower.
So now practically when it kicked you into those lower modes, were you limited in speed, or did it just make you have to pedal harder?
It really is a speed thing,
Okay.
right? Because my cadence switcher didn't change at all.
Okay.
I just, instead of going 20, it was reduced down to like 14 miles per hour. Now, when I did hit these lower percentages, I did start at the bottom of a hill. So halfway up the hill, I lost dynamite, and then even further up the hill, I lost their next mode. I think it was dynamic. And then towards the 5% remaining, it pretty much locks you into their muscular mode, which is their hardest mode. And in that mode, I was probably able to maintain about 9 miles per hour for a good amount of distance up the hill.
And what was the battery percentage?
At this point,
Yeah.
like 5%.
Okay.
Yeah, 5%. I was kicked into muscular.
5% muscular mode.
And then right after about 2%, and I rode it for about a mile or two at this 2%, I couldn't get it past. I couldn't get it any closer to zero. I tried, I wanted to. I, at 2%, rode it up probably half a mile of this ruthless hill. and it does a, like a limp mode. So you're pedaling. I was still in the high cadence and I'm pedaling, and about every 5 rotations, I was generating enough power for the motor to give me a little bit of a push. And then I'd pedal again, do about 5 complete rotations, and the motor would turn again. So it was enough to keep my momentum forward. I never felt like I was rolling back. And this is still on an incline. I was able to maintain about 2 miles per hour on this incline to get all the way to the top of the hill at dead.
Right.
And then past the incline, 4 miles per hour wasn't a problem, right? So at a completely dead battery, at least while you're riding, you can still maintain about 4 miles per hour on a flat. And I don't think I would have been left stranded ever. It was a lot harder to pedal though, because I'm really getting 1 full rotation for every 5 rotations I'm putting in. So not ideal, but I wasn't stranded.
So now, really at that point, that's where you're experiencing the inefficiency of human power being converted to electric power, being converted back into mechanical power.
I think in all the time that you and I have spent on this trike, it's only really been dead that one time.
Right. By design.
Right.
Yeah, right.
And that was the purpose of that, ride. I was going to kill it. I wanted to know what happened. So I think like the range on this trike, depending on how you use it, 45 miles is pretty close to the minimum you can expect on a fully charged battery. I think maximum though, 70, 80 miles per hour, 80 miles in total is totally doable in those like right circumstances at a low cadence, muscular mode, using that regen coaster brake.
Right.
You can get a long time out of a single battery.
Right. Yeah, and I would agree with that. I think if you stick to the muscular mode, higher resistance, where you're doing most of the work, not shifting that work over to the battery, and you're using the regen, every chance you have, I think that you can really extend that range.
One really cool thing about this motor, not only do you have that coaster brake that activates regen, when you pedal backwards, this trike has a reverse.
So that is one thing we have not mentioned.
Which is crazy. That's that's one of the more important things on this motor. They've got a reverse.
Yeah, so having a hub motor, one of the big advantages of not having a chain means that you don't have free wheels. And that means when you pedal backwards, it can engage that motor to get you in reverse.
And really just kind of unique thing that it does, your display actually reads negative miles per hour.
Negative miles an hour, right.
You go 20 miles per hour forward, you can also go negative 3 miles per hour
Now,
backwards.
I know they did limit that though, so right now, there's no going 20 miles an hour backwards.
I'm sure if we begged and pleaded, you might, but that's real scary.
That might be a little scary. What I think we ought to do is address some of the questions that we keep getting. The number one question that keeps coming up is, is there a retrofit? I already have an ICE Trike and I want to convert it. I've got another brand of trike. Can I convert it? The answer right now,
as of July 1st, 2026,
right,
no,
is no. The systems right now are manufacturer dependent. So if you want it, you have to buy a new ICE Trike with it. Now, we already know that some of the other brands are testing it out. They're adopting it. We know that we've got a Stein Trike with the PERS that we'll be, doing another video of soon.
I had just mentioned, I think this is the next evolution.
Right.
I expect every brand to be coming out with their own. I kind of expect other motor systems other than the PERS to be doing the same
Right.
chainless feature.
Right.
I'm really excited for what this holds. And as the first one to do it,
Right.
they nailed it. This is perfect.
They really did. And I will say that it is the future, and I felt like it was going to be the future.
We do 13 years ago. You said you had.
I mean, if we can get rid of chains and gears, not that it's going to be for everybody. There's added weight, there's added cost, there are limitations, range limitations, that kind of thing. But it makes riding so much more accessible for anybody. Even just when we have people come in and they try it, just being able to adjust that boom. Mm-hmm. You don't have to worry about the chain length. You just, loosen the boom, slide it in or out, and then they can go ride.
I mean, it's crazy how little maintenance that, removing the chain just kills, right? No front derailleur, so there's no derailleur adjustment, no cable you've got to lubricate. The derailleur tension, you never have to worry about. The coaster brake really reduces the amount of brake adjustment you have to do for the standard front brakes because you're going to be using the regen
make those
braking.
brakes last a lot
They
longer.
last forever. I mean, you really don't have to do very much anymore. And then, common complaints that I always get asked, do you have chain rings or chain guards? You don't have to worry. There's no chain. Lubricating a chain, there's no chain. There's nothing to throw on your pants leg. There's nothing
no
for your pants to
adjusting
get caught.
gears. There's no...
Those that have recumbent trikes know about the pesky chain guards or chain tubes that are always getting caught in idler wheels. None of it. All gone.
Right. Now, that's not to say that it's the be-all, end-all, or that nobody should buy anything else besides this now. And some of those limitations that come to mind really are the power of the system and the speed limitations. Because it is a class 1 system right now, it is limited to 20 miles an hour. And that's if you're going uphill or even when you're going downhill, it's limited to 20 miles an hour. Legally, because it's an electric hub motor, to have a class 1 designation, it can't propel you any faster than that.
Right.
And then there's also, wattage and power limitations. So, we're already finding, with bigger and heavier riders, is a 250 watt motor. Even if it's got a little bit of magic in there that can spike beyond that, is that enough for the bigger rider to be climbing the biggest hills?
And that is, and there's a couple things. Bigger riders, I haven't found a hill that this thing hasn't climbed with me. I've been a lot heavier. If I was that heavier weight, I don't know. I might struggle a little bit more. I think one of the big limiting factors with it being class 1, there's no throttle.
There is no throttle.
You have to pedal. There's no other way around this motor system. You are always going to have to be pedaling, which for a lot of people might be a good thing.
Right.
But that throttle being missing, I think is pretty unfortunate.
Right. We're definitely going to be talking about this more as we start featuring some of the other PERS systems that are out there and other trikes. We've got the Sprint X Tour set up with the PERS, and that's more of a racing touring trike.
I mean, that's like the funny things, right? I do think this trike will work for everybody. If you had a really specific thing you wanted to do, it may not be the best at it.
Right.
Speed, a big one. 20 miles per hour is the cutoff. So if you're looking to compete, one, it's a motorized trike. I don't know very many competitions letting motorized trikes really compete. But 20 miles per hour is the top. So there are other racing trikes that have chains that will go faster. And the big thing is touring, long distance riding. You are dependent on that battery, and there is no backup. There's no chain to run a cassette derailleur to keep you going at those high end speeds. So if you're planning some long 100+ mile touring rides, you're going to probably want a manual system.
Or at least a way of charging.
Right.
You
So,
know.
a backup battery,
and
maybe.
That, you know, that's probably the second question is, can I get this set up with a bigger battery? Can I have dual batteries? Can I even buy extra batteries? That right now, just because the system is so new, it's not available. But that's one of those things that there's no way that's not going to be available.
Right.
I think the wiring harness is already set up so that you could even add a second battery on there. And I think that's going to be inevitable, is people are going to be able to add either a second battery or, buy bigger batteries or have, other options. So I don't think that the range limitation long term is really going to be an issue for most people.
You just have to come up with other creative solutions, right? Charging units or that second battery that you have to carry to get that other range.
Right.
Where you wouldn't have to worry about that on really anything non-motorized.
One of the other questions that has come up is the weight, because when people are adding motors to their trikes, they're already concerned because they're adding, a mid-drive motor up front and then a battery. And now in this case, we have a generator up front, which is about the same size as
and
a
weight
mid-drive
as some
motor.
mid-drives.
Yeah. And then we've got a comparable battery, and now we're also adding a hub motor in the back.
I do think it's heavier than the generic just mid-drive battery setup.
Right.
Because you have a third thing.
Right.
Now, weight's really funny talking about any of the electric trikes. Riding it, I don't notice the weight.
I would agree
It feels
with
good.
that. Yeah.
It's lifting it.
Right.
And I gotta say that rear end with the hub motor and battery right there, it's a little heavy.
Yeah, even when we put this one behind us on the stand, it takes two people. You gotta have somebody on the back, somebody on the front, and then you're lifting it up. You could roll it into a car by yourself, but if you're actually lifting it, it's heavy on both ends.
Two people is probably advisable.
Right.
If it was in a box, it'd have this sticker that says team lift.
Yeah. Now, I mentioned that, when I was riding downhill, I was using regen, but I was also trying to go fast. And I found that even as fast as I was pedaling, just like any other Class 1 system, that it would not help me go past 20 miles an hour.
Yeah. And that's the, on a chain system, if at 20 miles per hour on a mid-drive like the Bosch, the motor stops at 20, and if your gearing allows it, you can still pedal past 20. Now, because there's no gears and there's no chain, it hits 20 miles per hour. You can pedal, it'll still recharge your battery a little bit. You're not gonna find that pedaling adds to your speed though.
Right.
The only reason you're gonna be going faster is because you're on a long hill.
Right. And for right now, at least, that's because there's that hard limit, I think, that's set in the controller or the hardware.
It just doesn't assist past 20.
Right.
The other question I keep getting, and I hadn't even thought about it until people started comparing it to an electric car. So some Teslas or all Teslas, I don't have an electric vehicle. When you stop hitting the throttle, the car actually automatically stops. It will slow down without you touching the brake pedal. I don't know if that's every electric car, but that's how I've been explained some of these like Tesla models work. Now this trike doesn't work that way. It just like a good bike, if I get it up to 20 miles per hour and I stop pedaling or I get to the top of the hill, I want it to coast. I don't want to have to always work when I'm pedaling.
Yeah, and that's my experience is it coasts just like any bike would, unless I start to engage backwards pedaling.
And it's not hard to engage that regen braking if that's what you want it to do.
Right.
But if this thing didn't coast when I stopped pedaling, this would be a pain. I'd argue I'd get more exercise on this than I would a chain system.
Right. So another question that comes up, is the charging of the battery. And we talked a little bit about, if you were touring and you had it and and you would need to charge it. You know, if you were in muscular mode all the way and you're pedaling and you're using regen as much as you can, and maybe you're squeaking out 80 miles, you know, and that's probably towards the
pretty
limit.
close, yeah.
You know, at some point, you know, you're hitting those final miles and you're going to be at that like 2% at that point. At that point, you would need to charge the battery. Now, people have asked, you know, can I just charge it by pedaling it?
Can I hamster wheel charge it?
Well, the idea would be if I was sitting, you know, like if I'm at the stop sign or whatever, and I engage my brakes, can I pedal and can I charge it? Yeah, you know, can you pedal enough to charge the battery? And I think the issue there really comes down to the efficiency of the system and the total wattage that you as a rider are capable of putting out.
I don't even know how to put a timer on it.
Yeah.
You're pedaling at a standstill, stationary pedaling. I'm just charging the battery. We're talking 3, 4 plus, maybe even 8 hours of just standstill pedaling.
I don't even know. Yeah, I mean, it's, you know, and if you actually rode and pedaled 80 miles,
are you then going to sit
are you
still?
then going to go, okay,
pedal?
now I'm going to sit here for 8 hours and charge? You know, if that could happen, I don't even know if you would be able to pedal enough to get 100% charge.
No,
I don't
your legs would fall off
I don't think you
before that.
could. I would love for someone to try that.
I talked about it.
Yeah.
I don't have the gumption to film it.
No, yeah, I mean,
We don't have the cameras with the battery capacity to film
8
it.
hours of, you know, hey, I'm sitting here on pedaling this. You know, and part of that is because your pedal power can be used either to propel you or to charge the battery. You're not going to be able to pedal and charge the battery if you're also moving forward, you know.
I do think we should preface there is no charging mode. There's not a disconnect for the
Right.
motor and the pedal.
Yeah, so when you pedal, that motor goes.
It's always
Right.
going to be trying to engage that
Right.
motor. Now, you could probably awkwardly pick it up and let it spin in the air.
But then you're spinning the motor.
You're still spinning
your
the motor.
energy is spinning the motor, you know. So to charge the battery, this is an electric vehicle, but it uses just a regular mains outlet, 110 plug, and we've been charging it overnight, you know.
I'd imagine 4 to 6 hours.
Yeah, 4 to 6 hours. I don't think we've actually timed it from, you know, dead to, you know, but it's
36
comparable
volt, 20
to
amp
other,
hour, 4 to
other
6
batteries.
hours, if I had to
Right.
guess.
Yeah, I would say so.
One of the other, more popular questions, a lot of the conveniences of having an electric motor is integrated lighting.
Right, yeah, headlight and tail light, and it's all just integrated into the battery.
I don't have to take it off and plug it in.
Right.
It runs off of the battery.
Right.
Does this system have it? Is it worth having? I have an opinion. I'd love to hear yours.
Yes, there is an option, you know, and just like all the other e-bike options, you know, it's going to tie it in. The main benefit there is I don't have to recharge it. It's on when the bike's on. It's already wired in. I don't have to have a separate battery. And because I'm dealing with higher voltage, generally, I'm going to have brighter headlights than I would if I, you know, had a small battery powered one. I personally think that, you know, if you're doing all around riding and you need lighting and you want lighting, definitely I think it's worthwhile. You know, will it consume some of your battery? Yeah,
It has
of course
to.
it does.
They are LED lights, so they're not consuming a ton.
Right.
For me, though, I care more about a little bit distance. You know, even if it's half a mile on my 80-mile ride, I like that half mile, and I'd rather just run some accessory lights. But how often am I really doing 80 miles on this thing?
If you're a rider that is regularly riding, you know, at night or dawn or dusk, or, you know, where lights and the visibility is essential for you, then to me it's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
I think get the lights,
Not
put
to
them on
mention,
there.
the mounting of the integrated lights looks very sleek.
Right, yeah.
Accessory lights can be messy and
Yeah.
clunky. These are meant to be paired with this motor. They made it nice.
You can get some really nice USB chargeable lights, but then, what happens if you forget to charge it, and then now you're caught out in the dark and you don't have a light.
There's nothing.
I don't think that the range loss from the light using some of your battery is going to even be worth considering. And here's why. Because I personally do not think that most people are ever riding any of their e-bikes. I mean, if you've got a Bosch system, you got a Shimano steps, if you've got a Bafang setup, and I know there's a lot of people out there watching that already have their preferred electric motor system, and they're out there riding. How often are you out there riding and you exhaust your battery?
Yeah. That's why
most people never would do that.
I want to argue with you so bad, but you're right. You probably should go with the integrated lights.
Yeah.
Just for the convenience of it. And again, if you are to take them on that 80-mile touring ride where you're going to exhaust your battery completely, I think we're maybe talking half a mile at the most.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah, for these integrated lights.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, most of those lights are in the 6-watt range.
It's going to go pretty unnoticed for 99%
you're
of the
going to
rides.
notice it. Yeah. We've talked about a lot of stuff, and I know that we've danced around a lot of different subjects, and I know that there's going to be a lot more questions that people have.
Leave them below.
Yeah, because because this is so new. As we start building these and we start shipping them out to people, and we're going to find a lot of people are going to have more experiences. They're going to be different than ours, and I think that this trike setup is still the future. It's the future of cycling. And what excites me the most about this is that I don't think anything else so far is as capable of getting more people into cycling and into trikes.
It's going to seem kind of like a cop-out, I think, for the overarching question, who is this trike for? Who's it catering for?
Right.
I think it is as friendly to use for beginners, and it's super easy to pedal around if you want it to be. Anyone can use it, and on the ICE Trike, it's comfortable and high seating. This is perfect.
Right.
It is a great entry level, and as I think you and I ride a lot, experienced riders, I love this trike.
Right.
I think this is great, and the less hassle I have to worry about my gearing and my chain and is it lubricated and are my brakes adjusted, I don't have to. I just go out there, I can sit on the trike, I can take it out. No hassle, as long as my battery's charged.
Yeah. E-bikes, motorized upgrades and everything, it's gotten more people out there riding bikes and trikes than anything else. We've seen a huge shift over the years. 20 years ago, when we were building trikes, people were asking, can I put motors on them? And we were putting motors on these, 20 years ago. I had my first electric bike, over 30 years ago, with a car battery on the back. I mean, people, they want the motors, they want the assist. The first motorcycles that were out there, were bicycles that had gas motors put on them and big chains and sprockets. People, they want power, they want that assist, and it gets more people out there riding. And I think that this system is going to get even more people out, because now you don't even have to worry about shifting. There's no chain. Setup is super easy. All these people that they buy one trike and they go, well, we're going to buy one and then we're going to share it. Sharing it has never been easier. Now you can just slide it in and adjust it. you don't have to worry about the chain gobbler setup that takes up the slack, or you don't have to worry about, oh, they forgot to downshift when they stopped and they broke a derailleur. They just get on it and they ride it.
Yeah, it's funny to say. We had a lot of these on order. We're just starting to get a lot of them in. A lot of people that ordered these already have recumbent trikes with chains and the normal setup that you're used to seeing. This is the extra trike they plan on using, but also having friends ride, because it is so friendly to use and adjust and just make work. I keep thinking, if I was to get a trike for my mom or my wife who doesn't ride as often, this is as easy as it gets, and I don't have to worry about maintaining it. It kind of does it itself.
Right.
As long as that battery's charged,
as long
it works.
as you keep the battery charged.
As long as I keep the battery charged, it's going to work for them, and I can adjust it and push it and size it, and there's no hassle. Easy is the only way that I think I can put it.
I mean, I'm a fan.
I hate to say it, and everybody who's watched the other videos, ICE calls it brilliant.
Brilliant.
And I think that's what it is. It's just brilliant.
Right. Yeah. Well, guys, I mean, we love this system. We think you'll love this system. If you can, we encourage you to stop by the shop, come visit, come test ride it, come try it out. And if you already have a trike, it's definitely worth trying one of these out and seeing, how does this compare? What do you think?
If you get the opportunity, take it. These are the coolest thing. And again, you're going to start seeing them more commonplace, I think, in the near future.
Yeah, I mean, I'm seeing other brands are already, they're adapting it. They've got their own version, 60 with their PERS system is, I think they jumped in right at that, claimed the first run of this, and they're not going to be the last guys. And I think we're at the future of...
This is the tipping point.
Yeah, the future of cycling. So if you guys have more questions, we encourage you, let us know down below. And we are super excited to see those. We have a lot of videos in the works. I know that we've been a little behind.
Riding season has hit us like a truck.
Yeah,
we're so busy.
Riding season, it has been crazy busy, but we've got a lot of really exciting videos that are in the works that we're in the process of getting up. We've got Brayden's 3-hour PERS exhaust the battery challenge ride that we're just trying to figure out, how do we get 3 hours of 4 cameras running on Brayden on YouTube.
Hope you love seeing me.
Yeah, because ain't nobody wants to edit that.
It's 12 hours of riding footage, guys.
Yeah, 12 hours of riding footage. So there you go. But as always, guys, we encourage you to relax, spin fast, and ride trikes. And we'll see you later.
Take care, guys.
Bye.
Hey everybody, this is Ashley, and I'm Brayden.
Yeah. I guess
we're here to talk trikes.